Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us here for the Tech Talk at BAM London and also online. My name is Robert Bazilla. I'm President of Engineers Australia UK chapter. Part of our new series of Tech Talks is about new energy and climate change. But as part of this theme, I contacted Rosemary Barnes, and she's made a name for herself in social media. Rather than talking to Rosie about her work in wind energy, I thought her experience in social media would have a bigger impact with Engineers Australia. Unfortunately, in general, engineers are notoriously poor communicators, and we could do better to promote both ourselves and the companies we work for. And I think this is something that we don't often learn in our studies at university, which concentrate on STEM. And I think Rosie is an example to all of this. To get out there, to use social media, and communicate amongst fellow engineers and also the wider public. So this includes promoting ourselves and also as a way of career promotion. I would also like to thank Andrew Grell. He's got his own brand as the Actionable Futurist. Andrew will present the interview he gave with Rosie and also separately give us some ideas that we can take away for ourselves, that we can action ourselves and work with social media. I hope you find this all instructive and enjoyable. Thank you.
So I'm an engineer. I studied electronic engineering back in Australia. I did practice it. Was at British Aerospace for a number of years and Optus and Telstra. So I've actually got my fingers burnt on the soldering iron. But what I managed to do was move from engineering into marketing, business development, and now what I'm doing, I'm a futurist. So I'm out talking about things like AI. And just as an example, this morning I was actually on BBC Radio 5 Live at 5:50 a.m. talking about there was an issue with McDonald's. They decided to stop their AI drive-through ordering and they wanted to comment on that. This time last Wednesday night, I was live on BBC talking about Apple's new Apple Intelligence, and about a month ago I was on BBC as well, Radio Nottingham. So I've learnt to be able to explain highly technical concepts in a way that even my mum can understand. And so I wanted to give you some of those tips as well. It's now 3:30 in the morning, so Rosie is not going to be with us live. I spoke to her last Friday morning. I did an interview. What we're going to do next is a bit of a hybrid. I want to play you the interview I did with her. I've chopped it up from about 56 minutes down to about 33. So I put all the best bits in there. And what I wanted to do after that, after we've watched it, is actually have a bit of a discussion about that. But before I start, I'm interested who is already doing a bunch of stuff online, publishing LinkedIn, YouTube blogs, those sort of things. Have I got a room full of novices eager to learn or a room full of experts?
I haven't done a LinkedIn post. But
You haven't done a LinkedIn?
I have done.
Okay, let's just go back to basics. Who is on LinkedIn? Hands up. Okay, we got a newbie. We'll get you on tonight. I joined LinkedIn. I'll tell you my LinkedIn story. I joined LinkedIn in 2004. I was working for a company in Australia, and my boss at the time, David Burden, said, "Oh, you've got to be on this LinkedIn thing." And he sent me an invitation. And at the time, I thought, "Is this a pyramid marketing scheme? Why is he inviting me to join this networking site?" And back then and now, you can actually upload all of your contacts to see who is basically online as well. And I realised there were 32 people that I knew that were also on LinkedIn at that time, back in 2004. And those 32 people, the sort of people I thought, yeah, they probably will be trying this new thing. So I've been an early adopter of LinkedIn. I actually give a whole hour-long lecture about how to really excel at LinkedIn. So we'll talk about some of those concepts tonight. But what I want to do next is basically play the video from Rosie. Today I'm speaking with Rosemary Barnes, star of Engineering with Rosie, which offers us a unique opportunity to delve into her transition from engineering to becoming a YouTube influencer in renewable energy. As engineers, we're all interested in learning more about how we can use social media to market ourselves and our engineering practice. So Rosie, perhaps you could give us an introduction to who you are and a bit about your YouTube channel.
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Andrew. I am an engineer. I've been an engineer for about 20 years. I graduated about 20 years ago from a systems engineering degree, and I focused mostly on materials and mechanical systems in that degree. Then I worked for a while on renewable energy technologies, a few different ones. But I really wanted to, were you living in Australia around 2010 2010.
I moved over to London in 2006. So I've been away 18 years.
Around 2010, I'd been working about 5 years in industry and living in Australia, and I was just getting really depressed about the state of what Australia was doing with renewable energy and making an attempt to solve climate change, and second with manufacturing. Manufacturing seemed to be like in decline in Australia, and I really am a kind of engineer that really likes to get my hands on stuff and really do engineering, not just talk about doing engineering. And so I just decided that I wanted to work somewhere where I could really, get involved in, like, has an impact on solving climate change. And with my background in composite materials and aerodynamics, it made sense to combine those into wind energy. And I went back to uni, got a PhD, and I wind-related project, structural design of wind turbine blades. And then, when I graduated from that, I handed my thesis in one day, and literally the next day I got on a plane to go meet the team that had offered me a job in Denmark. So then I lived in Denmark working for a wind turbine manufacturer for 5 years and traveled around factories around the world, climbing wind turbines and seeing how they break, developing new systems, breaking them, setting fires, fixing all those things. And that took me up to the pandemic. I'm sure, a lot of Australians living overseas, you're aware of how hard that was during that time. And I moved back to Australia during the pandemic and started up a consulting company, which is what I do now. And then in amongst all that, I had a period, like a lot of other people, a period of garden leave, where I was still getting paid but not working. Pandemic was raging, so I wasn't able to even look for new work because there were no jobs. And so I just I bought myself a little microphone and a selfie stick and started making some videos about fascinating engineering topics that I thought, should be out there, and just kept on doing it. I made one video, and then that gave me an idea for another video. And by the time that I was gainfully employed again, I had been doing it long enough that I had, developed a bit of a subscriber base, and I was starting to get some traction, and I've never been able to give it up since.
It's quite encouraging to hear that, and I was wondering what your impetus was, but it was like, well, I need to entertain myself because COVID is, like everyone found, quite an interesting time we had, and I kept doing what I'm doing now. The setup I'm using, I was able to keep doing public speaking, but remotely, but I like doing that in person. But I think back to when I started blogging years ago, and I had someone reply to a blog and a comment, and they said, "Oh, that's really insightful." And I started to get feedback, and then the blog built, and then more and more people heard about it. So just talk about that sort of feedback loop. You're doing this for fun, probably expecting no one's ever going to watch it. Maybe mum and dad might watch it. But tell me about that sort of first time you realised that people were really engaging with this and you should keep going.
So the first video I did, it was in response to the fact that I had just left this really big bureaucracy. The company I was working for got bought by GE, and that has like 300 and something thousand employees. And so you can imagine that it's like an immense bureaucracy. And I had been doing a little bit of work with the communications team there. I always, I never say no to an opportunity to talk about engineering, because most engineers tend to be shy or not want to, talk about it. No one in the room would agree to that. They're not shy. And I think one of my big things is I think people don't talk about engineering enough. People don't ask engineers enough for their opinions, especially these days, with the stage we're at with the energy transition. People will talk to anybody but an engineer about the, technological changes that need to happen over the future. And it's like, who do you think is, designing, developing these things? Anyway, that's a bit of a tangent, but I have always made an effort to say yes to every kind of communication opportunity I've gotten. I had this idea living in Denmark. It's like a outdoor museum for historical wind turbines, and as a huge renewable energy geek, I just thought it was so cool. I'm like, we just got to make a video about this. It's so great. And so when I was working at that company, it was like, okay, yeah, let's do it. We had a meeting, and then we had a committee, and then we had to, make a budget. And I was just like, oh my God. And so then when I got made redundant from that position at the start of the pandemic, I'm like, yeah, that's it. I'm going to just go make it myself. And so I did. I just drove around different turbines, talked about their fascinating features like pitch-controlled turbines, stall-controlled turbines, the type of towers, and, why they're getting bigger, all those sorts of things. And then when I put it up on YouTube, it actually had like a pretty good response. Not on YouTube initially. It's really hard to break through on like one video on YouTube unless it's, like very sensational. But on LinkedIn, I had a really good response to it from, people within the industry that, other engineers that thought that was really cool. And people, could recognize that there weren't many people talking about that sort of thing and suggesting other topics. It just kind of went from there. And the first few videos that I did were all, questions I get asked a lot. So, even at parties, you say, oh, I work for a wind turbine manufacturer, people will be like, oh, well, I've always wondered, why do wind turbines have 3 blades and not 2 or not 4? Or, wouldn't it be better if, there wasn't so much space in a wind turbine that all the air would get through? Why do they make them like that? It's so silly. And so, I had like a pretty good list of topics that I knew people were generally interested in. And so those first few were all about that sort of thing. And it had, good response on LinkedIn. And as I was looking for work at the time, I could see that was like important for my professional career to raise my profile in that way. But more than that, I think it was more to do with just the fact that I found it satisfying and something to do while I couldn't, get as into my work as I normally did because the world was shut down.
A lot to unpack there. Let's just reflect. So I've been working into Europe for nearly 20 years. And so I remember back then there weren't as many wind turbines in the UK. And I'd fly into somewhere like Germany. And as we're flying in, just see this sea of turbines. I'm thinking, my goodness, this is just... the whole project is amazing. And now if you go down to Brighton or some parts of southern England and look out, you just see this wind farm going for miles. And as an engineer you think, my goodness, how do they do that? How do they put them there in the sea? How do they get the cabling back? How do they maintain them? How do they make sure that people don't crash into them? I've always been fascinated. There's a guy called Tom Scott, you may know. He's made a lot of engineering type videos, why things work. In fact, he just said he stopped his channel after 10 years. But the one I remember, I just looked it up while we were talking, was about doing the emergency exit from a wind turbine, going all the way up and coming out again. And you're right, when you can actually take someone there, most people would not normally get to go anywhere near a wind turbine, let alone up to the top and stand there and have a look at the view. So I'm going to unpack some of the things you said. I think the audience in the room tonight, I think the audience listening to this online are going to say, I'm never going to start a YouTube channel, it's just not for me. But I think what we want to do is say, well, what's the channel you're comfortable with? And for many people and many engineers, it probably is LinkedIn. Certainly for me and what I'm doing, LinkedIn is my most popular channel. But then maybe just talk about the power of video. It's all very well to type what you've done, but what I do, I'm on stage, what you do, you're around renewable energy. You can actually take people there and that sort of personal point of view. So just talk to me about the power of video as a storytelling tool.
Yeah, well, I would add to LinkedIn, I would add Twitter, which isn't a platform that I really love, but I have found that for short videos, and that can go quite well on Twitter, and it's like a lower barrier to entry. Like YouTube really does take a long time before people will just start finding it, whereas on Twitter it seems to be faster that you can have any kind of short video that will get a decent audience. And now I've forgotten actually what your question was, now that I've answered it.
Well, about video as a storytelling tool, I think what you're doing, what I'm doing is very visual. So how would you compare writing about it versus actually showing someone what you're doing?
Well, I mean, for me, it's interesting to see the really different kinds of audience that you get, because I usually turn my content is usually both an article and a video as well. Get better bang for your buck once you've done all the work. And the written work is definitely probably more the norm on something like LinkedIn, and people that are seriously engaged with the topic will be more likely to read a written article. But for someone that's more casually interested or maybe had never even thought of it before, I think that's where video can come in really well, because you don't need to be familiar with all the concepts, because you're showing it as you're talking about it. So I do think that it's a nice way to like really broaden your audience. And I mean, I've got demographics of my audience on YouTube, and it's a very wide variety of people from quite young up to a lot of retirees, and channel is probably most popular with retired engineers probably, or people that worked with engineers. So whereas on LinkedIn, it's going to be other people that are in a very similar profession to you. So it's just a good way to broaden the type of people that you're talking to.
Now, it's all very well to post content out there, but how important is engagement in your community? Writing back, answering comments, you mentioned, the demographics. How do you maintain and build that audience? I think I read somewhere you've got 50,000 subscribers or 50,000 people looking at your content. How do you keep them engaged and build that?
I've been sold short. I have to correct you. It's over 90,000 now on YouTube. So that's,
Wow. Okay. I stand corrected. How do you get to 90,000? Tell me. I'd like to get to 90,000.
So 4 years, and I must be getting close to 100 long videos by now. I don't do it all myself. I like I mentioned before, I really love to actually engineer. I love to talk about engineering as well, but not instead of engineering, only in addition to. So I have help. I have a researcher and I have an editor. Both of them are actual engineers. I tried for a long time to go the more normal and a lot cheaper option of getting non-engineers to do those things, which sounds like it should be easy, but just too many times of, you make a video on, I don't know, cement, and you're talking about rebar and cement, and showing aluminium cans or something. How could you, seriously, do you not know the difference between what steel, rebar is and aluminium? The hiring actual engineers has been really important for the channel. On YouTube, it's definitely consistency or persistence, I would say. I don't really stick to a rigid schedule or anything. And I think the other thing that goes along with that is that it's really important to be interested in it yourself. So I don't follow too much about there's a lot of standard YouTube growth strategies, and that would mostly involve, finding your successful videos and making more like that. Just a lot of really similar stuff. And that's a bit boring to me. A long time ago, I stopped making videos only about things that I knew about and started making videos about things that I wished I knew about. So, I learn as I go. I get access to new projects that I wouldn't get to see, and meet a lot of people that I wouldn't otherwise know. So, it's really expanded my network a lot, and and my knowledge as well. And when I go visit the projects, it's a different kind of knowledge that you get from having seen it and asked, every question that came into your head of the experts. It's not something you can get from just researching from behind your computer. So I've gained a lot from that, and I try and give that benefit to my viewers as well. And so that's how you kind of you build an audience. There's a lot of trust that you've got to build. So they trust me to cover things that are interesting and important, and to ask the questions that they would ask if they were in the room. So that's how I've done it anyway. It's definitely not by the book YouTube growth, but I think it works pretty well for someone that's trying to maintain a professional career in addition to the YouTube. And, my professional career is a lot more important to me than the YouTube, to be honest. It doesn't make sense to me to be making, silly videos. The sensational stuff on these kind of topics would actually reflect really badly on my professional career if I was to be like, oh my goodness, there's a diamond battery and it's going to change the energy landscape, and we, throw all your lithium ion batteries in the bin, and that's not something that a serious professional working in the energy space could say, but that is what gets views on YouTube. So I think probably the way I've done it is a lot more relevant to someone who would like to dabble with a little bit of social media to enhance their career. as opposed to, someone who wants to quit their career to become a full-time YouTuber.
I actually invite people on my show that I want to know more about. So I want to know more about quantum computing. So I found the best expert in quantum computing, and I've learned so much. And then why I can have a sensible conversation with an audience about quantum is I've learned from these experts. So I think, like you, I'm learning all the time. I don't know the answers, but you find people that are smart, put them in front of a camera, and if you can elicit a great story out of them, and I think we're telling a great story at the moment, then people find that interesting. So I want to link this to your career. So as you said, YouTube is not the focus. It's a good thing to do. So tell me how it's enhanced your practice, your visibility. Can you put a figure on it that you've grown your business or more people are aware of you because of this? I really want people in the room and people listening to this get a sense of, this requires effort, but can have a multiplying factor on your career, which turns into dollars and promotion.
For me, it's been my main strategy, and I wouldn't say I did it intentionally. It's not like I had a consulting business and then I thought, I'll launch a YouTube channel to get more leads for that. The YouTube channel actually preceded the consulting. So for me, at least half, I would say, maybe more of the leads that I get, well, actually probably 99% of the leads that I get come from YouTube, but then half of those are from crazy people. So that is one disadvantage that you have to be aware of. It does add time to screen the crazies out. The LinkedIn is the more professional space, but my leads come mostly from YouTube, not from LinkedIn. And I think the reason is because there's a lot of people or developers who are getting into something new, and the energy transition is really good for this because, all of a sudden all the disciplines have kind of, blended together, and you can't just be an expert in one thing anymore. There's, one thing seems to lead to something totally different. So you get people who are trying to develop a new product, and they are new to at least certain aspects of it, and so they're YouTubing. YouTube is the second biggest search engine after Google, and of course the videos show up in Google as well. But they're searching to learn more about it, and then here's a video from somebody explaining how this works. I want to work with that person. And so they get in touch. And it's crazy. Sometimes it's about things that I really am not an expert on. All I did was make a video and, interview some people who are actual experts, and people are getting in touch wanting me to work on it now. So it's not always the perfect match, but it does work really well that way, in a way that LinkedIn, it more tends to be people who are already experts in that. They're not necessarily looking for that expertise to add.
So let's look at the sort of technical issues that you might face. So you decide to start this channel. There's someone in the audience saying, I'll give this a go. What do they need? How do they get started in terms of camera, microphone, lighting? What's your recommendation? I
read, a few months into the pandemic, I read that there was a global shortage of, there was toilet paper shortages, and where I was living in Denmark, there was a shortage of yeast. Just funny, because there was no shortage of bread. You can still buy bread, just not the yeast to make it. And also a podcast mic shortage, and I contributed to that shortage. I had bought off Amazon a cheap podcasting mic and a selfie stick, and I used my phone, and that was it to start with. Then I learned about teleprompter app, which I put on my phone. That was my first big upgrade, because until then I took probably 10 hours or 20 hours of footage for my first 15-minute video. That's not a pathway to YouTube success to have to deal with all that. So the teleprompter app helped a lot with keeping it.
This is where you look at the screen and the words are on the screen, so you're essentially reading a script.
And then that was it for quite a while. That was it until I had my first video that blew up, that got a lot of views. It's sitting at, I think, about 500,000 views now. It's about vertical axis wind turbines and how they differ from horizontal axis wind turbines. So would you believe that was the...
I'm going to have to watch that. I'm intrigued
It's so
now.
funny. Anyway, it got a lot of views all of a sudden. I went from getting a few hundred, maybe a few thousand views on a video to getting that many every day. And when I had my tiny, tiny audience, everyone was very nice. Everyone was so excited to have found this, tiny niche channel that reflected their exact interests, and everyone was very nice and encouraging and only said nice things to me. But then when this one video blew up that people are not nice to you anymore when it's remotely popular, and everybody pointed out to me that I sound like I recorded it at the bottom of a well.
So vertical axis turbines are appealing for really different applications than horizontal ones.
Now I can hear that, so the microphone inbuilt in your phone is not ideal. I would say with YouTube, the first thing to do is get started, because your first videos are not going to be very good. And the great thing is that no one much will watch them, so it won't matter. So normally, if you're gradually growing, you'll gradually improve. I had, this different experience where I had just one video that just got big, and anyway, so I couldn't even hear at the time the bad sound quality, but now I can hear, and I spent a lot of time actually trying to find a decent microphone and get a decent room set up. And ironic because I'm recording today in a tiny room of hard 90-degree walls.
It's okay. I will fix it in post, and you will sound amazing because AI these days. I use Adobe Premiere to edit, and there's an enhance button in there. Your voice will sound like I'm using this Shure SM7B.
The microphone is number one thing. Basically, to get yourself a teleprompter app, and get yourself a microphone, and then after that, it was like lighting. No, people don't care that much about lighting. People are a lot more tolerant of bad video than they are of bad audio. Tripods, stuff like that. But I'd say audio is the number one thing. But it's the number two thing, because the number one thing is to get started, to just do it and put it out there. First time you do it, you'll be riddled with anxiety if you're anything like me. And I remember one time I had some like formula on screen, and I had forgotten the formula for tan, and had it flipped.
Rosie, what are you talking about? You're not an engineer if you can't remember the formula for tan.
I had a Jason over, what I mean. I had a Victor Khan.
We've talked a lot about content. What about repurposing it? So your content for YouTube versus content for LinkedIn, is it edited in a different way, or is it told in a different way?
I don't put video on LinkedIn often. I do sometimes make short videos. I really struggle for time. I do have help with the channel. I spend all the money that I make on YouTube, I spend on the people who help me with it. So, it's a bit of a limitation there. So I don't repurpose as much as I would like to. I have recently started chopping up the videos to make short videos. If you make it like 60 seconds and in vertical format, then you can put them on YouTube Shorts and Instagram and TikTok. My normal strategy, which I don't always have time to implement, is to I make the video is the main thing. And then I'll tweak the script a little bit to turn it into an article, which I will either put on my blog or directly on LinkedIn.
I'll give you a quick tip on LinkedIn. So with a bunch of people, we're trying to work out LinkedIn algorithm, and it changes all the time. The thing for me is that those first three lines are important, because when people are looking through your feed, the first three lines are what they read. The other thing is video, because if you do the 3 lines and you embed a native video, they see that and it auto rolls. And so if you've got captions on there as well, they read the 3 words. They've then got a video in front of them, and what I find is people then click more because they see that. So it might be the teaser video is there with captions, because that then goes beyond there. And I find that if I have an image or a video in a post, it performs better than if I don't. The other thing that we've worked out, if you put links in the post, LinkedIn actually votes it down because they don't want you to leave the platform. But as a woman in a predominantly male industry, how's your presence on social media helped to address gender imbalances and inspire other women in STEM fields?
So I hope it has. And I get occasional stories of people. My favourite story is when somebody will tell me, I watch your videos with my daughter, and, she loves them and wants to be an engineer when she grows up. I've heard that maybe half a dozen times in the whole time that I've been doing it, and I absolutely love that. I haven't done as much as I would like to do in terms of, those furthering those goals that you just mentioned. I thought when I started the channel that it was, I'm a woman, a female engineer, then obviously this will be appealing to other female engineers or potential engineers. But my audience demographics are, I often have 98% male viewers, and I think maybe on average about 94% males. So I'm not doing great. I should do more in getting female guests on. It's harder to get female guests than male guests, not just because the industry is skewed. So obviously, if it's only 10% female, then there's 10 times as many men for every woman. But also I do find that women they're not as comfortable to talk outside their area of expertise. And I don't want that to come across like I'm blaming women for that, because I know the research behind it shows that women are judged much more harshly for things like that. So it's a rational response to the way that society is. But it makes it harder when I'm time pressed, and so I never got enough time to work on the channel. Then I do tend to go too often with the path of least resistance. So I would say that I have probably as much work to do as most communicators in this space. In fact, I know a lot of male podcast hosts, for example, who do a much better job than I do about getting a good balance of male and female guests. So I could learn something about gender equality from some of my male colleagues. Because I didn't know what engineering was. Even when I started engineering at university, I knew that I loved physics, and I had heard that, if you're really good at physics and maths, then you should be an engineer. And so I did it, knowing that it was pretty easy to change to a pure physics degree after a year if I didn't want to.
What challenges do you think engineers will face when promoting their work on social media and other platforms? And what are the common blockers, and how did you overcome these?
I think the cringe factor for me early on, that was the biggest thing. And, just thinking, what are my colleagues going to think of this? Like, it's so embarrassing. They're going to think I'm an idiot. That's probably by far the biggest block that I had early on. And it's it's kind of freeing when you leave a company, because you're like, okay, I'm starting afresh. And for me, I tried really hard to think that this isn't for them. There's, stuff that I'm putting out, like think who it's for, and worry about like how they perceive it. And the guy that you sit next to who, is at your level or works on something slightly different, it doesn't actually matter. That they may well think that you like roll their eyes and be like, oh my God, she thinks that she's an influencer. This is so lame. Don't worry about that. Think about, okay, what are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to achieve a promotion at work by letting your people know that you actually have these additional skills that aren't being utilized? I did that a fair bit early on, just writing about things that I wished I was working on, and it worked. There's senior management would see me in the tea room and start a discussion up about it. So I think that, and then the other thing that helps with getting over the cringe is to try to be authentic. Don't copy what you see like popular LinkedIn posts doing. Like you see, I've pretty well scrubbed it out of my LinkedIn feed now, but when you start out in LinkedIn, the like natural way that the algorithm will funnel you into these like inspirational posts where, I was on my way to a job interview and this homeless man fell over, and I knew I was going to be late, but I gave him my jacket, and then I showed up without a jacket and late, and that turned out to be the CEO, and he, like whatever. Like they might be really popular and they get heaps and heaps of likes, but it's like a lowest common denominator kind of thing where, and a really large number of people are moderately inspired by that, so they'll just press like. And so it spreads, but no one's giving someone a job because they wrote a post like that, right? So you don't need to copy that like ultimate cringe thing. You also can't get that out of your feed. That's what people who hate LinkedIn should know, that just every time you see a post like that, just click the dot, say not interested, and just don't let your eyeballs rest on it for too long. Just like ruthlessly do that, because they do suck you, and you're like, oh God, what's this? And you want to kind of have a look. Don't do that, because then the algorithm's like, oh, they love this kind of inspirational content. So get that out of your feed. Don't try and do that. Try and think what you're trying to achieve, and then be yourself, and be your work self as well. Like, I don't mean be yourself like if you're at home crying because someone says something mean to you at work. Like, you don't post that. Just post the kind of, like you on a good day at work. That's the kind of authenticity that I'm talking about, and I think that's the easiest way to get going on LinkedIn.
So final question before we go to the quickfire round. If you were starting again today, what would you do differently?
I'll get that microphone from day one.
What is the microphone so we can plug it?
At my desk, I have a Shure MB7.
One like this, the sort of professional podcasting microphone.
Yeah, it's a couple $100, I think, or maybe 300. And then when I'm out and about, I like my Rode Wireless Go. It is like a kit with
Australian made and designed.
It's like little clip-on mics, but people hold them and wave them around, and so why like have any microphone if you're going to hold it? The point is it's wireless. So microphones would be the main thing I'd change. I actually wouldn't change much else because, like I said, like the important thing is to do it. Like analysis paralysis is probably going to stop 90% of people from actually progressing on YouTube because, and even once you've made the decision to go out and record something, it's very difficult to know when to stop. You can always re-record something. You always realize, oh, maybe this is not like entirely correct. You know, I've said this, but it's only true 99% of the time. I should talk about the 1% when it's not. You know, engineers like to do that, including me.
We're almost out of time. I want to delve into the real Rosie, the authentic Rosie. We'll go through the quickfire round. We'll be asking you some quickfire questions. Window or aisle?
Aisle, I guess, yeah.
iPhone or Android?
Android.
Your biggest hope for this year and next?
Oh, I'm still trying to get my career properly back on track after having a baby. So, trying to get maybe up to 90%. I feel like I'm at about 70% now. So
I wish that AI could do all of my
laundry.
You are the fifth person to say that. This is a common theme. Okay. What's the app you use most on your phone?
Podcast app.
The best advice you've ever received?
I like to use an example of a confident idiot that I know in order to overcome my imposter syndrome.
What are you reading at the moment?
I just finished reading Wild Swans, which is a book about China's recent history up to the death of Chairman Mao. And I just finished it. It's amazing. It's the best book I've read in a long, long time.
How do you want to be remembered?
By being somebody that made a difference to what we're doing on climate change. I want to be remembered as somebody that did something to help.
What 3 things can our audience do this week to get started on a journey of using social media?
They can think about a topic that they know something about and other people don't know they know it, and write some content. It's very easy to get started on social media. You just post, and the beauty of it is when you don't have a big following, there's not many people will see it and tell you that it sucks. So it's okay to suck early on.
Rosie, it's been a fantastic discussion. A lot of things we've covered. How can people find out more about you and your work?
Can search me on LinkedIn, just Rosemary Barnes, it should come up. Engineering with Rosie on YouTube, ROSIE. My company is Pardalert Consulting. Pardalert is a little Australian bird. Not a lot of people know that, but it's like the little bird that could. They weigh like 10 grams and awesome. So anyway, check out pardallertconsulting.com.
Thanks so much for your time and look forward to your next YouTube video.
Thanks.
Was that useful, interesting? Some of you were laughing a bit, some of you taking notes. What was the one thing that stood out that made you feel a bit uncomfortable? Because Rosie and I are edge cases. I'm not expecting any of you to be a Rosie or a me right now, but we want to get you to that. The cringe factor is important. Who here hates the sound of their own voice? There's a reason for that. What you're hearing right now is my voice through the air. What I'm hearing is my voice through the air and through my ear canal. So when I hear it back, I'm hearing it different to what you hear it. And it's like, that sounds awful. So the thing I did was just get over it. That's the voice I've got. So I've got to learn how to use it, to modulate it, and I can make money out of it. The second thing, easy thing to do, and actually there's a QR code that I'm going to put up on the screen with all these things on Amazon, is buy yourself a tripod. This is a tripod, a little thing here. Basically, your phone could go in there either for Instagram straight up or on the side, and you basically sit it down and you record yourself. Not for consumption. The first time you do it, you want to record it, and if you're doing a talk somewhere, record it and then show it to your friends or family and say, what do you think? And again, the cringe factor, first of all, get over your voice sounding awful, because that's what you got. And secondly, watch how you're presenting, what your content is, and ask other people their opinion. And I do that to myself all the time. So I'm recording this right now, obviously because you want to see it later on. I do about 50 or 60 talks a year, and I record all of them. and I watch them back. And I go, well, that worked well, that didn't work well, and I want to improve. And eventually you'll get over the cringe factor and you then look for the good and you'll go, actually, that's actually really good. Now, what Rosie and I have done that stands where we stand out is that no one else is doing it. I guarantee not everyone else's room is doing this just yet. When I was at IBM, I didn't mention I was after some startups, I was at IBM. I used this social media stuff to generate $100 million of incremental revenue by influencing some sales. Now, not me personally, but by what I had done and people becoming aware of IBM, we could actually measure there was $100 million of incremental revenue. So there is real money in this. And you can actually get noticed. We found at IBM we were getting on RFPs that we weren't getting on before because there was an awareness of what we were doing. Now, IBM has been a company that's been around for more than 120 or 15 years or something. And a lot of people are going, I didn't know IBM did that. So I come into a room, I've read about you somewhere. The other thing that Rosie's content, my content, and soon your content will get to is the influencer's influencer. If you're trying to pitch a project, you can't always get to the CEO. But you can get to the CEO's influencer. That's either someone that works with them, for them, someone who he or she has said, go off and do some research about whatever, and they come across some of your content, either on LinkedIn or on YouTube, and they go, oh, we should go and talk to Robert about this. I didn't know that they were doing that. So what it does is it gives you another avenue to actually hook people that might be interested in your firm. Now, initially, you're probably going to have, as Rosie did, the management will go, hang on, we've got standards and you can't do that. Just get started. And like I said, get the tripod and start filming some content and then show people what you can do. So there are a couple of little things there. I want to look at maybe some top 10 tips. But before I do that, where are we at? Is this something that anyone's now considering that's changed their mind they would like to do? Or is this still a case of, and leave that to Rosie and Andrew, because this is just not something I even want to consider. Where are we at?
I think it's still quite hard to picture myself doing video content, because I know that at least having images in a post makes a huge difference in engagement and views. But maybe to do video content of something we've built would be fine, but to hold it up and do
you're right.
would be a challenge.
So if that's where you're at, and that's where I was at many years ago, the written word is still very powerful on LinkedIn. And the other thing is, if you have a drumbeat and you're regularly putting stuff out there, the LinkedIn algorithm takes over. I won't do my whole LinkedIn thing, but I'll give you some little excerpts. LinkedIn has a thing called the golden hour. You post something, for the first hour, it basically shows your post to some of your followers. If they interact with it, it will then enlarge that and show it to more and more people. I know that works because I posted something a few weeks ago and I'm still getting people liking it. There's no way they've seen it organically. They've seen it because the algorithm says, this post, we want to show it to you. So that very first hour, send an email around the company saying, hey, I've just posted on LinkedIn. Can someone at least touch it and look at it? I'd love someone to like it. If you comment on it and repost it, that will also send it up the hit parade. So that golden hour is really important to have people doing that. And it can be artificial because it's actually a really interesting post. So I think you're right. Think of some content. Start with doing it once a week and work out what time works for you. For me, I know that on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, around 8:30 in the morning is a really good time for my UK audience, and I get a lot of engagement out of that. And you can see, if I get more than 100 engagements, you can see the little counter in the first hour. I know that it's going to go up the hit parade and keep going. So that's a good sign as well. So yeah, get started, maybe some written content. It might even be, you start by, and the other thing is, on LinkedIn especially, there are two ways to engage with people. You can connect with them, which means Robert and Beck and I are connected because we've met each other and we're actually in the network, or you can follow someone. By following them, there's no thing they need to do on their part, but two things happen. First of all, their content then appears in your feed. So if you're pitching for a project, you're not ready to connect to the CEO or the Chief Strategy Officer just yet, follow them, and then all the stuff that they're interested in will start coming in your feed. That's interesting. The second thing that happens is, who knows about who's viewed your profile on LinkedIn? It's reverse stalking. It basically shows, let me do it, let's go live. Okay, so who's viewed your profile? I can see the last 90 days who's done it. So what happens when you look at someone's profile, they can see you've been looking at them. It's like an electronic tap on the shoulder. And what I found generally happens, and I like sort of reverse engineering, why, David and I are connected, I haven't heard from him for a while. Why is he looking at my profile? Interesting. If I get a touch from him or an outreach in the next few days, that's a buying signal that he's interested in my content. Some of these people have probably read some of my content. I always try and work out, Paul, I haven't seen him for a while, he's from IBM. But what it does, when you look at their profile, they see you've been watching. And 9 times out of 10, they'll click on your profile. So who is this person? Oh, they work at BAM, they work at wherever. And so you can actually use that without writing a single word to actually start having people know that you exist. The other thing, this is not going to be a LinkedIn thing. The other thing, I would advise you, one thing you can do. What's your eye? This is my LinkedIn profile. What's your eye drawn to there? What's the first thing you looked at? The dirty big DHL logo, right? It's called social proof. You know why you walk past a restaurant that's got lots of people outside and the next door has no one? And where do you line up against? The one with lots of people. The social proof says it must be so good that people are waiting to get in. So I was very fortunate. Back in 2019, DHL got me to speak. I've got BBC there saying I'm an AI expert. I put that on my LinkedIn profile as my social proof. So within the first thing they look at, big brand, he's been on the media, okay, there's evidence that he knows what he's talking about. The second thing people look at is my profile picture. Never ever have a funny one with you, the glass of wine or your arm around someone. This is LinkedIn, not Facebook. I'm also being a bit cheeky. I've got 2 hits in here. I'm writing a book. So the book is there and also I'm on stage. I haven't even looked down here yet. So social proof, he's doing that. This is the money shot. You have about, 150, 200 characters to play with here. Don't just put what you do, put how you help people. So this is what I do. Last line, I can help you navigate the future of AI and beyond. Because what I want to read is what you do now, marketing manager, sustainability manager, and what can I do to help you? Those 3 things, before they even scroll below the fold, they've already got a sense that you are actually the real deal. If you then start writing content that's useful and have video content, that's when the money shot happens. So there's a real sort of process, but you've got to get started. And it might just be, with everything we've said tonight, you might go, turn on 2-factor and have a look and have an audit of what my LinkedIn profile says about me. This whole thing is what we call your digital first impression. So when I reach out to someone or I'm going to meet with them or I'm going to go on stage, they will Google me or they'll put my name into LinkedIn. What they see here and on Google is their first impression of me. And that can be something you engineer, pun intended, to make sure it's going to be what they want them to see. So what we're talking about with video is actually probably a couple of steps down the road, getting the basics right so that your front door is open for business and people go, you're really credible. And I know all of you will have, maybe not video content, but there's a paper you wrote or there's an award that you got. But use this real estate. This real estate here is so valuable because it's the first thing they look at. And if it's a nice picture of a forest, that's nice, but it's not going to sell any widgets. So some really simple things to do, and then look at written video content. Any other thoughts? What I've just said, is that something that's achievable? You could actually tonight go home and go, yeah, I might just tweak it. Use mine as an example. You know, obviously you're going to have different content to me. Hero shot, social proof, cheeky picture of me doing something, and what I do and how I can help you are some really, really simple things. And then the content flows, because that's the thing. Oh. Then what I do, I'm lucky I'm on stage, I've got lots of nice pictures. Every one of my roles, LinkedIn allows you to add media. So I've got a lot of video content there. And you can feature things. And so for all of the roles I've had, I found content, let's go way back to the dinosaur ages when I was at Telstra, okay? What have I got down here? Cred, Gigaphone, Legion 1, Telstra. Here we go, what have I got there? I started an internal TV show called Big TV. Not a lot of video from back then of that, but that's something that I did there. So every role that I've got, more social proof. It proves that actually I have some credibility in this space. That's without even writing any new content. That's about you, that's your own content that I think can be really useful. Robert, what are you going to do differently after tonight?
I'll actually log on to my account for too long, I won't say. But it's actually something that I've been thinking about actively doing, but not taking that first step, but actually doing it. So I'll be trying to set aside, say, a Friday afternoon and just go on to LinkedIn and add a post or add comments. Yep. And get to me as the...
And it might be the content is something you've read. So if you're in the sustainability space, someone you really admire has written something, you can repost that with your own comments. So not only are they then seeing their content, which is really good, you're saying this is what I think of that. And that will actually add, one, to the algorithm and people finding you, and secondly, your credibility, because you have an opinion on that particular post, even though they're more popular or more famous than you are. It can be, we call it post jacking. So yes, they've posted there, but here's what I think of this post. And this is my view on that as well. So that can be really useful. So it might be sitting here tonight, it's like the whole Rosie thing, that's 10 years down the track. Some very simple things you can do, which then will draw you in and you'll be a bit more curious. Say, well, what content could I put there? I've written some stuff, I've got some photos. I'm actually going to film my 2-minute view on this and I'm going to put it up there and see what people think. LinkedIn actually favour video. You heard on there that it doesn't like links, but video, and also it's what they call native video. So for example, let's look at my post from this morning. This is an example. So I was on 5 Live this morning. I quickly edited the audio together. So I put here, that's just, I don't know how many people looked at it. So that's a reasonable amount of people. So I've had 800 impressions, which is not bad for a post of mine. I've had about 14 different people that have liked it, and I've had a few comments. So I know that content has resonated, and that's content that's about me. It's social proof, also hopefully quite useful. The other thing I've done is I've put captions here. See how, even though the sound is off, your eye is drawn to the video because it's telling you what is being said. I think like 86% of videos are played with the sound off. So little things like that. There's a program I use called Veed, VEED.io that actually does the captions for you. So everything now I'm captioning, not just for hard of hearing, but it's because people have the sound down. So little things like that. And you might say, Andrew, I haven't got time to do this. The feedback loop is what will be the trigger. So you'll do a post and someone in management will go, I just read that, it was really, really interesting. I liked it, I forwarded that. And you'll go, oh, okay. It's a bit like when your mum heard that you'd won a prize at school. She's like, oh, I'm really proud about that. And that feedback loop is what allowed me to go, I'm going to keep doing this because there's some value in it. And eventually it allowed me to change careers and I now make money out of this thing. So yeah, start simple. Let me go back to the slides just to see if anything we can cover while we're here on some tips that came out of the talk. So just let's whiz through them. So choose your platform, so LinkedIn or YouTube. For many people in the room, I think it's going to be LinkedIn because it's accessible. You already have an account. There's a barrier to entry in YouTube that you've got to have something to say and have a camera and everything else. But I think all of you could get to where Rosie's at, and I think I wish I had 90,000 viewers. That's amazing. I'm not sure how well she's monetizing it though, because 90,000 people, if they all had, that would be great to be able to monetize that. We talked about this in terms of the social proof. Quality content. You've got to have something really decent to say, or, as I say, comment, repost someone else's quality content with your own view on that and see what you think of that. This is the QR code for, if you all scan that, it'll take you to a page that will give you a list of all the equipment that you might want to look at and some other things as well. No one wants to scan that? Haven't got your phone? We can send you a link if you haven't got that. Consistency. Pick a day of the week when you're going to post and stick to that. Maybe, like Robert said, set aside some time to do that. I do it 3 times a week. Or if there's something that's happened that's interesting, or I've done something interesting, I'll sort of break into transmission and do that. You can repurpose content. I post on LinkedIn, X, Twitter. I just don't bother about it anymore because it's a waste of time. And I've been playing a lot with Instagram. It's very visual, and I find that people actually are interested in the visual things that are on there. Engaging your audience. If someone bothers to comment on a post, always reply. 2 reasons. One is it's respectful. Secondly, the algorithm goes, people are responding to this, and the algorithm will then take over and see that this post is popular. Rosie talked about your professional image, not just in your photography and the visuals, but also what you're talking about. Of course, should be professional. You don't want to lose your job over it, and not on LinkedIn. Collaborate. Another idea Rosie and I were talking about is bring experts in. So I run a podcast. I don't know a lot about quantum computing, so I got someone in to talk about that. And I run a podcast, and that actually helps me as well. And I turned the podcast into a book. So I've actually monetized the podcast. Analytics, looking at people, like you saw the number of people that had liked my post and some people had engaged. That will tell you whether the content is resonating. If no one's watching it, then it's probably not interesting content. I love stats. I'm all over my LinkedIn stuff. And sometimes when I do things, I've just done something with Intel, they want to know exactly how many people looked at it. For them, it's important. We actually looked at this, who's for your profile. I did a live demo. I've forgotten I'd put this in there as well. Leveraging social media. So YouTube, LinkedIn, all those sorts of things. Also think about your internal social networks. I'm sure all of you use Slack or Yammer or Chatter or one of those. IBM, I ran a consulting practice around internal collaboration, and so we worked out how to use that. If you @mention someone on most internal social networks, they either get a message on their phone or an email to say someone's mentioned them. And if you @mention the CEO and he or she reads that, then that's pretty cool. It's like a little tap on the shoulder, so that can be useful as well. And what's next? So what's everyone going to do when they leave here tonight, tomorrow? What are you going to do differently? I'm interested as to what you might do that just gets you onto that on-ramp to be doing something a little bit different, because there's an opportunity here. The fact you're all here tonight means you actually are intrigued. I think you've all sort of seen, well, maybe we're not the Rosie end of the spectrum, but I can make some really small changes that will set me apart from probably 99% of my colleagues, and I'll start to get noticed. Questions, queries, comments, concerns, criticisms?
Is there a negative aspect of social media? I mean, Rosie touched on it about the weirdos on.
Well, remember I edited that video down from nearly an hour to half an hour. So the discussion we had about the weirdos was more people that had a lot of time on their hands and just wanted to tire kick and waste time and debate things. The more popular, the more people see you, you're going to be criticised. I see it as backhanded compliment. If someone is critical of me, then I must be doing something right because I'm out there doing things. I think you want to monitor that and be aware of it. I remember years ago I was in a social media company I was running, and someone had tweeted that we'd done something wrong. And I went on as the CEO and said, no, we haven't done something wrong. Here's the facts. And then the community went, yeah, lay off. He's actually being open and honest. So it wasn't an issue. But if you let it go, like companies go, we've got to get it all approved and signed off, then it breeds like wildfire. I'll just put the QR code up again if you want to have a look at that, some stuff on there. So should we go and have refreshments? Maybe if you've got some one-on-one questions you want to ask, I'm happy to do that as well. You can find me, a podcast here, a lot of interesting stuff you can listen to. Podcast is another really interesting way. Get yourself invited onto podcast. In your field, there'll be someone who is a mad podcaster like me, who's always hungry for guests. Get yourself on a podcast. All you have to do is chat. And then you've got some content to put on LinkedIn to tell everyone how wonderful you are. So that can be a really easy way to no work other than having a chat and leveraging off someone else's huge network, because podcasts, we can't find enough guests, good quality guests. So that's another cheeky way to get on the on-ramp without having to do any work at all, no editing, just chat, and then put it on LinkedIn and say, hey, I'm amazing. I'm on so-and-so's podcast. Question at the back.
Small comment. So my background is engineering. It's a bit classic.
Yeah.
I do video marketing.
Yep.
Crazy companies. So one thing that I would add is that it sounds strange, but as a non-engineer, I love to hear engineers talk, and it's so exciting. You have no idea how exciting, because you get people who out there and goes, I'm changing the world. I made an app that makes it slightly easier to use audio for great, fantastic. Then an engineer can come up and say, well, we built this, we've done that. It's a whole different scale. So I've actually subscribed to Rosie channel, which talks about it's amazing stuff that on my days day I don't touch. It's just cameras, I don't touch that, and that's incredible. So me talking with stuff like our LinkedIn, or even YouTube channels, it's so exciting for non-engineers. And
also the barrier, I think sometimes as engineers we're a little bit shy. What I've said to people is find someone who is a bit of an extrovert like me, who was the interviewer, and you be the interviewee, and just talk about what you know and have a chat. You don't have to worry about it. It's very low impact, and they do all the work. So that might be a really simple way, and you go, oh, I really enjoyed that, I want to do it again. And then you get onto BBC, and then, so what's happened on BBC, back in January I did some stuff for Vodafone, I did a bunch of radio interviews. I'm now on their internal database that says I'm an AI expert. And so literally last night, I was called at the airport, so I was flying back from France to do the radio hit, and then someone with an hour to go said, can you come on BBC TV Live? I said, I'm at the airport, I can't, sorry. So I had to turn down, I'm now turning down TV requests. It's taken me a while to get there, but what then the universe says is, if the BBC think he's okay, then maybe he knows what he's talking about. That for me is huge currency. Having that BBC strapline, AI expert, is probably worth £100,000 a year to me. I put a figure on it. People will book me because the BBC have given me social proof. I didn't say I was an expert. They literally, they put that on. I'm not going to argue with them, but that's worth real currency to me because it's a trusted brand saying that I have some social proof. And in this industry, it's incredibly powerful. So hopefully that was useful. I'm going to put all this online as well. I would encourage you, one, to put, when I put the video up, put it on LinkedIn. Hey, just learn about Rosie and everything else, and @mention Rosie. It'll mean your networks you'll be surprised that post will do really well because the algorithm will latch onto me and Rosie and it'll be like, oh wow, I've got all these new followers. So just do that as an experiment. Well, maybe you send me an email when I've got the post up. I'll do a post about this in the video. If nothing else, just like it and repost it with your own comments on it, and just as an experiment. There's nothing, drive away, no more to pay.
It was great to hear of Rosie's story, and I think there's lessons to all engineers about developing ourselves, advertising, talking to people, promoting ourselves, which we don't always do. Just talking about an upcoming event next month, 18th of July. Our directors are coming over. Institute of Directors, Romney, our CEO, is coming over, and also Raj Veshatram. He's the chair of the EA engineers. We're having a listening session, so for all the EA engineers, please come along, and we'll let you know more details. But we'll start now. As Andrew said, we'll go outside, we'll have some nibbles, and we can keep on talking about this topic.